Without further ado, Kristjan Maruste from Co-Module & Co.
So ladies and gentlemen, this right here is an extreme example of vertical integration. You have an app developer and a product owner dressed up in weird costumes to make sure that their product and brand succeeds. Vertical integration is a strategy to streamline operations inside your company by taking ownership. And we're talking about taking ownership, and we're talking about vertical integrations. My name is Kristjan. I'm a husband of a queen, father of 3 maniacs, a mechatronics engineer by education, and an ex-racing car engineer and driver. But here today, I'm as the founder and CEO of Co Mobility Group. At Co, our mission is to empower emissionless transport and thus make our world a better place to live. So we started our journey building racing cars and driving them around in circles. We got really good at that, so we became the top 3 team in the world. But the problem is that, driving cars around in a circle is fun, but it's not really useful for the world. So when we graduated, we started looking at where are the problems the world is facing. And in the last 30 years, we have done a lot in Europe to make our environment better. But the biggest problem is transportation. So this is the biggest driver of greenhouse gas emissions. And when you go more deeply into this problem, you understand that we actually move in short distances. It's because we all live in cities. So most of the trips are really small. So if you want to solve a problem of non-emitting and at the same time moving people, you end up with a bicycle. But the problem with the bicycle is that most of them are still in the 17th century. Right? When the car in the last 100 years has evolved from a carriage with a steering wheel into like a modern, super luxurious media device, a bicycle is still a bicycle. So we understood that if we want to change and get more people on bicycles, we have to enable the industry to evolve. So we decided to work on bringing bicycles to the 21st century by connecting them to the internet. And in 2014, Co-Module was born. So what Co-Module does, it works with bicycle, scooter manufacturers, electric motorcycle manufacturers, and embeds our electronics device into these vehicles. These devices collect information, send it to our server, and make it available to use, and sometimes you also add some visualization layers on top of that. So why do you need all that? So that your bicycles won't get stolen, so that your electric bicycles and scooters would get software updates, and to enable new business models like scooter sharing. Who loves scooter sharing, by the way? So we targeted vehicle manufacturing companies initially and worked with them. But then, as I already said, scooter sharing. 2018, a massive boom happened. Scooter sharing became on stage. A guy called Travis van der Zanden bought a couple of scooters from China, and put them in the streets of California. And when we heard about it, I flew to Santa Monica, and I might have taken 2 of these scooters to a dark alley and seen what's inside them. And that was the moment that I understood that we have technology that nobody else has. So there was a huge boom. In 2018, we were planning to ship around 8,000 units, so 8,000 products. Then in 4 weeks, we got orders for 50,000 with a deadline of as soon as possible. So retrospectively, our company grew 120 times in 5 months. So if somebody tells you that they grew 2 times, we grew 120 times in 5 months when you look at the output that we shipped. So that was cool, right? And we got scooter sharing as a customer. So what we're doing here was that we're vertically integrating the whole ecosystem of connectivity. And we became the global market leader in doing that. So to date, we have connected around 600,000 vehicles that have driven maybe already billions of kilometers. We're not really tracking it. So every time I make up this number when I'm making a presentation. And we are very global, as you can see from the map as well. But the thing was that we saw that scooter sharing is really cool and fun, but it just doesn't work because the scooters are so bad. So I don't know who remembers the first generations of scooter. We also had in Tallinn, Estonia. They were horrible. You know, and as engineers, if you look at something so bad, your eyes start to bleed. You know, you just feel that you have to do something. So these guys were actually our customers. So we're selling them these IoT units, and we were making a lot of money. And actually, we just see how they're all tossed into the water, and they're just dying. So the problem with engineers is that they don't really whine too much, right? They actually look at problems, and they want to solve them. So we looked at this problem, and we're like, you know, heck, let's become the only company outside China building scooters, right? And you know, believe me, I've told quite a few times in my life that it's a bad idea. And when I told that we're going to start building electric scooters in Tallinn, I had nobody telling me it's a good idea. I think it was more than 100 people telling me it's a bad idea. And even my mother. So my mother has always stood with me. And this was a moment where she said, Kristjan, that is not a good idea. And that was the moment I knew I have to do it. Because as a teenage boy, you always want to show your mother wrong, right? So we built a scooter, and that was in 2020. And it was the world's best scooter, longest range, super durable, 6+ years lifetime, swappable batteries, etc. And we had given all these big sharing operators this information, and everybody was super excited. And then when it came out, you know, Voice, Tears, and Jumps, and all these guys, they were like, oh, it's super cool, you're doing the right thing, but I'm not going to buy it. I'm like, why the fuck aren't you not going to buy it? And they said, well, because, you know, I'm in growth mode. And growth mode means that I don't care about profitability or anything else. I just want to show maximum number of scooters on the streets. So when I get 100 million from my investor, I just want to buy as many cheap scooters as possible and put them on the street. I'm like, okay, I'm going to prove you wrong. So we decided to create a tool, our own scooter sharing network. So we're like, hey, if you don't want to buy them, we'll just do it ourselves and show you that these scooters are good and they matter. But that wasn't the initial idea. The initial idea was to sell them to operators. And whilst we got going, we thought, hey, you know, why just do sharing? Let's build an end consumer brand as well. So we ended up not just building scooters for other operators, but to build it up with building an end consumer brand. And you know, why I tell you this story is that this has led us to this group where we have different companies doing different things, doing, you know, B2B business and direct-to-consumer business and sharing and ownership, but it's all the same technology. And because it's all vertically integrated, it really feeds into each other. And today, we have, up to date, we have made around 50 million euros of revenue, and we're now around 200 people. And I think a very, very big part of that has actually been vertical integration and the fact that we've been just really, really brave in doing a lot of things that people have thought is impossible. So coming back to vertical integration, it's a way of doing a lot of things in-house, and I think the most important part of that is taking ownership. It's not trusting other people, not trusting third parties to do something for you, but really going into the detail and trying to do everything in-house. And the problem with vertical integration is that it's mega difficult. It's super time-consuming. It's really tricky. It's risky and expensive. And you will probably not find anybody to give you money, except maybe for just a few people. Thank you. But the thing is that if you succeed, then the plan goes together, it's mega rewarding, right? And I'll tell you why it's rewarding, and I'll not tell you it with our own examples. I'll bring you some very well-known examples. I bet you know the next company, right? So Apple is a very good example of vertical integration. They're not totally vertically integrated, but we all know them because they were the company who connected software and hardware. Whereas when they started, you had companies who built computers like Dell or HP or IBM, and then you had companies who built software like Microsoft or Linux. But these guys, they put them both together. And today we know that they're huge, and most of you probably think it's the best product, right? But when they started, nobody thought it was a good idea, right? And when they started, they were struggling for a very, very long time, whereas IBM and Microsoft and everybody were succeeding. But they still, you know, kept on doing what they did. And today, they're the most valuable company in the world because they combined software and hardware and because they were super brave in doing that. And the cool thing with them is that through this vertical integration, they are now in places where they can launch new sub-products and sub-companies that are making just absolutely idiotic revenues. So this is 2020, but AirPods made more money than Uber or Spotify, and they're just earplugs, right? So this is a prime example. So what they did, it combined hardware and software, and they also combined design and engineering internally. What they didn't do was sourcing and manufacturing. So Apple doesn't manufacture themselves. Apple manufactures almost everything in China. And I think this is the biggest reason why in the next 10 years they won't be the most valuable company in the world anymore. Maybe even 3 years. Because if you look at the geopolitical situation at the moment, I think these people are very, very nervous. But then there's another company that's probably going to be the most valuable company in the world, and is also probably the most vertically integrated company in the world, and that's Tesla. And what they have said several times is that building a car is 10 times easier than building the machines that manufacture the car. And what you see a lot is that people build products, and then they're like, hey, I built the product. Now I'm going to own the customer. And then I'm just going to outsource the manufacturing, because that's easy, But I own the product and I own the customer. But if these guys say that manufacturing is 10 times more difficult than building the product, then it kind of feels that you're missing 10 times value creation, aren't you? So I can bring you a quick, side note, is that 20 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, Nokia and Ericsson were the mobile industry. Like, they owned everything. Like, all mobile phones produced in the world were coming from Nokia or Ericsson. Today, there's no Nokia and Ericsson anymore because these companies were run by financial geniuses who thought that shipping out to Shenzhen is cheaper. Let's first do a little bit there, and then we do a little bit more, and eventually you end up in a place. Is it still working? Yeah, okay, and eventually you end up in a place where nobody else knows how to build mobile phones than the people in Shenzhen, that you don't have Nokia and you don't have Ericsson, but you have Xiaomi and Huawei. So coming back to the idea that if manufacturing is 10 times more difficult than making the product, then if you don't manufacture, then you're not really, on the edge, are you? And again, a good example how vertical integration is super tough and takes time. So Tesla has huge valuation, but it took them basically 10 years to start showing any kind of significant growth of valuation. And who has followed them? They have been so many times where they've been very close to bankruptcy, right? But it's just the time. Like, if you build a very focused software product, you can launch it very quickly, but it takes a long, long time. But the cool thing is that when Tesla had less than 2 times today's valuation, they were already twice as more valuable as Toyota, who's the biggest car company in the world. So it shows you that if you own the whole thing, success, if it happens, is massive. So looking more into what is vertical integration. So it's about being in full control. It's about defining the product, doing the design, engineering, prototyping, doing all the manufacturing part, and also managing and holding the customer experience. And there are different sub-branches here, and there are different varieties. But one thing that is very important to understand as well is that if you vertically integrate, you're not giving money outside of your company. So in any one of these steps, if you give production out or if you put some kind of design out, all of these companies want to earn margins and profits, right? So everybody will take a 5 or a 10 or a 20%. And initially, it looks like a very good idea because you don't have capital expenses, right? So you can get it really quickly and fast and cheap. But then at one moment, you understand that your product really doesn't have competitive pricing. And it's because everyone who's using or who you are using is actually taking a piece of that. So if you look at Apple, just that you would better understand what is vertical integration, then Apple is really, really good in vertical integration besides manufacturing and prototyping. I think this is all done in China. But they are extreme now in the sense that they also do their own chip design. So they go very low in engineering, but they don't do any manufacturing. By the way, Apple has 50 business class tickets booked per day between America and China. So if you don't produce in-house, you have a lot of fuck-ups that you have to fly. But they also take it to the next level in the sense of adding different services. So this is what I brought out there as well. And now if you compare them to Tesla, Tesla, as I said, is probably the most vertically integrated company because they also do manufacturing in-house. But what they do even differently is that from the beginning, they've had this vertically integrated mindset also integrating products. So what is very cool is that they didn't just create a car, they also created the charging infrastructure themselves. And they were like, hey, people need to also charge their cars at home. So they created solar installations, and then they created this Powerwall product. So they also looked at the whole life cycle of person using the vehicle, not just the vehicle, and created everything around it as well. And then I added Äike here. So Äike is our scooter brand, and this is what we do in-house. And it's a funny feeling when we say that we produce scooters in the center of Tallinn, then a lot of people don't believe us. So that's why I put some pictures here. And you can see on one picture, there's me. So it has to be us, right, producing. So it's the same guy here than it's on the picture. And why it's cool to do vertical integration? Because you're in full control of everything. So if you're a control freak, then I really suggest you. Not saying that I am, not saying that I am. You can really push the borders on technology. So you can always be in the front line of technology. The technology is not feeding into you by suppliers, but you're doing it yourself. You can do significantly faster development cycles. If you get it right, you get better efficiency, so higher margins. And conclusions. So, when you're building something, don't be shy. Be brave, go all in, and never think about the fact that I want to do something really quickly and then I want to sell it off in a couple of years, right? Build it for lifetimes. I've worked quite a lot with Japanese, and what is the most sexiest thing about Japanese businessmen is that they always talk in lifetimes. So vertical integration takes a long time to pay off. It's super painful to do, but when it does pay off, it pays off big, but then you have to think in lifetimes. And it's a very, very long way to get there. And everybody will tell you that you shouldn't do it because it doesn't make economical sense in the beginning. And you also don't see the results really, really quickly. But if you find good people next to you and you believe in what you're doing, then you will get there. And trust me, if you go the vertical integration route, then it will be mega. So one moment you will understand it that it's absolutely fucking mega. And finally, if you liked what I was saying and you would like to be part of our mission, then take contact with these munchkins and they will help you. The munchkins are here, stand up. There's one, there's two, there's three. So if you want to help code, then come and join us. And whether you join us or whether you want to do your own thing, then again, be brave. Fight against greenwashing. This is just my personal wish. So if somebody's greenwashing, punch them in the face very hard. And make an impact. So when you launch your company, when you go to work to somebody, really actually think, why are you doing it? What's the impact that you're creating? And don't build stuff to metaverse and computer games, please. And don't forget to live, and don't forget what's the important things in your life, and don't just work your ass off and die alone in your metaverse. Go vertical integration, go long, build for lifetimes. Thank you, everybody.
You're a popular guy, Kristjan. We have some questions from the audience, so I will ask 3 questions right now. Any bets on the next wannabe Apple or Tesla?
Sorry, once more?
Any bets on the next wannabe Apple or Tesla?
Äike. Next question.
What's the next cool thing you dreamed of to be in the market?
And like a product to be on the market?
I assume so.
Better electric scooters? Sorry, it just goes really in one direction. If you're in love with something, you're in love,
Why are you all writing pictures and photos without wearing a bike helmet?
Whoa, that's a good one. So that is a good one. Why I don't wear a bike helmet? Because for me, this is fighting for my human rights of better bicycle infrastructure. You know what I mean? Like if you have to wear a helmet driving 20 kilometers an hour, then let's be honest, you have to wear it because of cars, right? Because cars are going faster than you are. So you, as the most vulnerable part of the traffic, should actually have the right to ride it like that. If you look in the European culture of bicycle, nobody in Holland wears a helmet. Absolutely nobody. I mean, like maybe a very few people. So the reason why we wear helmets is because the infrastructure is so bad and so that the cars could go so fast. So whenever we make a picture with tool, we put a helmet on the person. Whenever we make a picture with an ownership scooter, we don't put a helmet on it, just because it's your free decision to do it. You all drink alcohol, right? It's bad for your health. And you know that you might have a liver cancer, but you still do it. So I don't really drink alcohol, but I drive a scooter without the helmet. So that's the risk I have taken. But yeah, it's kind of like fighting for your rights, a little bit. And when you're driving scooters or bicycles, and there's a car parked on the bicycle track, don't just look at it. Stop. Turn their helmets the other way, the mirrors the other way around. If there's a driver, shout at them, right? Be impolite and aggressive because you're fighting for your area. You can't let the cars take over the world. You have to fight it for it. You can't just be in social media.
Because I really like people who use their name, they don't hide themselves anonymously. I will ask one more question from Anu. How did you convince investors that going vertical is worth bigger initial investment?
I didn't. I failed. We've raised 10 million euros and made 50 million euros of revenue over the course of our lifetime. We're profitable now. We're growing 2.6 times this year. We don't have any investments this year. We want to get to 1 billion euros of revenue without any additional investments. I didn't. I failed. I think you're now in a much better place to build a hardware startup, also vertically integrated. But it's the hardest thing to fundraise. So yeah, I didn't really raise too much money. And I think we've been quite good in what we've done because we didn't get too much money. So it made it very fragile.
So I have only one question to you. Why are you most certainly coming to the STARTUP night in 3 hours?
Sorry, once more?
Why are you coming to STARTUP night dance party in 3 hours?
Because I like to dance. My wife is a choreographer, so I'm a natural in it.
So I will let you show at least one dance move to the audience. DJ, please play a song so you will see what you're going to miss out on if you're not coming. So
let's see what's the music. Oh, this song, yeah. Okay, that feels awkward, but fuck it. What should I do? You should put something that has more, vibe to it, like an EDM song. But I mean, what also always helps is, you cross it. You cross it, and then you go back. You go back, and then you cross it, and then you do a little bit line dancing, and then you do a clap, and you do it around, and then you do another line dance. So, see you.
Okay, one more applause.
Thank you.